Welcome to the Turntable, a roundtable discussion featuring music industry professionals, artists, and anyone with a vested interest in the music business. And today we have some amazing panelists on the table. I want to go around the table and have everybody introduce themselves and how they're connected to music and the music business. So let's go ahead and start over here.
Sure. My name is Matt Burns. I'm with Smart Punk Records, based out of here in Orlando, Florida. We are an independent record label with our own artists. We license major label records. We are a vinyl-centric record label, which is great for the way that it's been booming lately. We have a brick-and-mortar record store. We have an online record store. We work with merch manufacturing. My background, I'm also a player. Worked at a recording studio. Started an all-ages music venue from South Florida, back where I'm from. So just kind of like, this was my first foray into business side. So
very cool. Yeah. Thank you.
How do you do? My name is Carl Lewis, and I'm the fastest man on sax. And I'm an international recording artist. I'm also a writer and arranger, and I am a working musician here in the Central Florida market predominantly. I've traveled all over the world playing, and I'm from Houston, Texas, and I currently live here in Brevard County, Florida, Palm Bay to be exact.
Thank you. Durell.
My name is Durell Peart. I'm from Orlando, Florida. I'm actually a Full Sail grad, 2015. But I have a company called Double M Management and Marketing Group. I'm an artist manager, music consultant, and I just love helping independent artists.
What's happening? I'm Xavier Keyz, singer-songwriter, producer, originally from Chicago, Illinois. Just moved out here to Orlando, so big up on that. And I toured globally, and I'm really big on ownership. I have a Wire Formula Masterclass that I teach artists on how to get and gain their fans offline without paid promotion and advertisement. And I'm just happy to be here.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you all, and we do have an eclectic group of professionals, and I know that you all have a lot to bring to this conversation. I want to start by talking a little bit about industry trends over the pandemic. I know it's going to be a distant memory, but if you think far back enough to a different time and a different era, there was this curious thing called an NFT. Anybody remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And it seems as though, even though that was the future of the music industry, it seems like these days, not so much. Then, shortly after that, it seems like it was replaced by this thing, not to say that it doesn't still exist, this thing called the metaverse. And it seemed like everybody was going to have, if you saved up, property next to Snoop Dogg. And again, I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but a lot of that hasn't come to fruition, right? We did see some cool things happening. We saw festivals happen in that virtual environment, and a lot of interesting promotions. But, a lot of what was predicted didn't quite happen. Even though I'm sure it's still part of the future. So now we have this curious thing, 2 letters, AI, that is now dominating just about any conversation and anything related to media, anything related to music, and certainly entertainment as a whole. So my question to you is, maybe if you could share with us a little bit about your perspective on AI. Is it something comparable to what we've seen with previous iterations of disruptive technology that I just mentioned? Or do you feel that this is the real deal and this is going to profoundly change indefinitely our industry? Who wants to start?
I'll start.
I'll
start. No, I absolutely love, especially the Chat GPT. I love it. I think if you know how to use it correctly, because here's what people don't understand. It's only as smart as what you tell it to do. So it's not going to overtake people like they say it's going to take. But I love it because for me, it gives me ideas as a consultant when I'm writing books and things like that. I like to just ask it questions and it gives me prompts to get my brain thinking. so I can continue to help people. So I love it. But I think you just have to adapt to it, and it's going to make your jobs easier. I think it's going to make what we do easier. In terms of creatively, there's ways around that. If you want to use AI to make songs, do a split sheet. And like make it work. You can make it work. Like you can, because this is the future. It's not going to go anywhere. And I think if we use it correctly, it's going to make the game different. It's going to help. It's going to ultimately help you create revenue streams, additional revenue streams too in your music business as well.
Speaking of revenue streams, one of the topics more recently have been around ownership, right? And we've seen some preliminary rulings come down that we won't be able to copyright something that is wholly created by AI, whatever that means, because a human still has to put prompts in, right? And then more recently, we learned, well, if it's partial, then it can be considered for a Grammy Award. But if it's wholly, then it can't be considered. And even to kind of step before that, we had a label who shall remain nameless to protect, I guess, the innocent, who actually announced, and this wasn't that, recent, it was maybe a year ago, announced that they had, whatever this means, signed an AI artist. And then there was this quick backlash from the artist community, and also talk about cultural appropriation by technology, which is also an interesting conversation. And then they, I guess, dropped or shelved. I don't know. They did something. Maybe they put it out of his misery. The AI
Shut
artist,
it down.
All
Shut it down.
control delete.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I want to ask the
Most
artist on our table. There is a lot of talk about these AI artists, and maybe one day replacing real human artists. And I know that they've announced, depending on who you listen to, over 100 million AI tracks flooding the marketplace. What are your thoughts?
I think that the world is still evolving towards the AI perspective and everything, but there's nothing like a human touch in a story that you can relate to. And I feel like personally that's something that AI can never grasp or replace, is a human touch and an emotion in a record. When you get those chills and those goosebumps in those records that you listen to. So I really, like I said, I don't think that AI could take its place. It can run neck and neck and hand in hand if it's programmed the right way. But as far as taking a human's place, I don't think that can be possible, just because people gravitate towards things that they love and that they can relate to. And it's just like I think what we was listening to a podcast on the way over, if you are an artist and you you're doing stuff in your hometown, people can relate to that. Like, oh, I know him. Oh, I know him. Oh, that's he's from my hometown. But a love song comes out by AI. It's like, who's that? And I don't what are you talking about? And I can't relate to this person. Where's this person from? And it's just nothing to relate to, but just coding, in a sense. So,
100%. Right.
yeah.
To piggyback off that, I would say my favorite parts of a lot of records are the human errors that you hear in vocal takes, in guitar solos, and all this stuff where it's like, you're using a computer, it's going to be perfect. You're using auto-tune, it's going to hit a C every time until you make it not hit that. And it's going to be the same thing with AI. It's going to, like you said, you're changing the prompt to say, oh, maybe make it a little bit flat on that third note you're hitting, or maybe, follow this, maybe hit this harmony instead. And you could give it imperfections, but there's nothing like that human touch of, you're in the studio, AC's off, you're sweating, your voice cracks. And it's like, that was the take. That's what it's about. You know what I mean? It's
the emotion.
You're singing. I mean, there's stories of like Aretha Franklin singing House of Blues, AC off, it's hot as hell in there, everyone's sweating, and the energy that's in that room, you can't make that up on a computer. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, you're watching these old school videos of like what it was like then, and you can't replicate that. Woodstock 99 wasn't like Woodstock 94, wasn't like, it's different, it's evolving. And I think the theory of evolution is that there is no, this is the end all be all, it's a constant change. and you either grow and adapt or you fall to the wayside and you die.
So, Carl, as a professional musician, both behind the microphone and also in a studio and also on stage, do you feel that's something where there is room for an artificial component of that, or what do you think?
So I think that a lot of it depends on what large record labels flood the market with. If a large record label that controls not only the market in the US, but if I go to Dubai, they're still playing the top 10 from the US.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, that's what it is, although I want to hear a Dubai artist. If they flood the market with CDE, and we all run to replicate CDE because that's what the market has dictated.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So then there's no appetite for, if CDE is AI made or even AI supplemental, there is no appetite for original music until a smarter part of your audience says,
That's what I
yes,
want.
original music is what I want. That's important to me. And I want those goosebumps quicker than I would get if I were just hearing a portion of a human-made project. And I'll give an example of what you're talking about. A lot of cats that I know, and I don't want to let all of the secrets out, but when we're recording, we understand that music has a medical, physical, or spiritual component. If there's a party in the room where you're recording and you have a tape recorder in there, the magnetic tape is going to pick up the magnetics of the party in the room. Thereby, you run that back to back when you're doing the recording process, and you get that human imprint of the emotion of the room on the recording. You know exactly what
Absolutely,
I'm talking about.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So now, as a performer, you can use that and supplement it with AI to fill out some things if you want to. But even if you do it perfect, either by yourself or with AI independently, it really doesn't matter what you produce until there's a hunger for that in your audience.
Right.
And so it's going to come back around to it, but it's such a slow turn that artists can't capitalize off of the monetary benefits of using AI independently, wholly, or as a supplement to what they create. Does that make sense? To answer your question?
Indeed. And you made a
Love
great
that.
you made a great
Love
point.
that.
You made a great point because even though we're in an environment now where there are more independents than ever and different strata of independent, right? Independent record label or artists at a whole, just independent of labels. But you made a great point. What the big labels do, because so many times they set the precedent for the masses. And I think someone mentioned earlier, auto-tune. Right? Once upon a time, auto-tune, I mean, we heard it in the 70s a little bit, but once upon a time, auto-tune wasn't a thing and it became a standard. Once again, on radio, it became a standard.
I mean, it's a tool. You use it. You listen to Cher when she's on Live After Love.
Yeah.
That made that song. If she was, I mean, she has a great voice regardless, but you listen to that, that is just adding distortion to a guitar. That's adding delay to an instrument. It's just the tool that you're harnessing to make this art that you want it to be.
But that was Cher, right?
Right, already up there.
That's a big
But
part of that.
even then, when you throw in auto-tune into the urban music culture, you're having, everyone's doing, I mean, it changed a lot.
Big
and
time.
I don't think for worse, I don't think artists who are like, I'm only using auto-tune.
Some might argue that point, but not this person.
I think
at
it's
least
still
not on camera, but
I think it still takes the artistry behind the performance. You still need the bass, the bones of that song to be good.
Yeah.
You can't fake the funk all the way to the top.
Right.
Facts. Yep.
Look at Milli Vanilli. You got so far until Secret's out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
I think, go ahead.
Now we're at we really are at the infancy of this. So then that is a question. You mentioned, and I'm with you. You can't replace that human element. Is the rest of that sentence yet?
I think so.
No, it's not. It's never going to be yet.
Yeah.
Let me give you another out of the music example. If you go to, specifically when it first started, if you go to Ancestor.com, Ancestry.com, which, as I heard in the beginning, was run by the Mormon Church, and you put I heard, I could be wrong. Y'all fact check. They're really good at analytics and finding where things are from and the historical background keeping. And the typical American goes to there and they're like, oh, my great uncle was from Germany and he came over on this ship and I know exactly the town that he's from. But because it was the Mormon church, the people who coded it and did the history were not diverse. So then if you are from Asia, it's going to say you are from Eastern Asia. It's not going to say the province of China or North Korea or South Korea you were from and what tribe that was, because there was nobody of Asian descent putting the information into that software at the time, right? So it can never be it, because you can never have a diverse enough origin to program AI for it to catch everything, or even if you put everything in it, then it's still not going to value every data point, right? Every data point is weighted differently.
Right.
So, it ain't going to remember harmonica music, and you trying to make a new hip hop record, and it's not going to know to put a harmonica in there and make a weird sound that people don't even listen to anymore until somebody does it 3 times and it picks up.
Right. To that point, I would say when you put everything into a box, you're not specifically going towards any one audience. You're not going to have that organic, hungry crowd following you, super fan, buying every piece of merch, going to every show.
That's what I teach, baby. That's all what I teach. Super fans all day. That's super fans all day.
That's what I'm also trying to tell artists is like, okay, you have your passive listener who will listen to you.
Super fan is
the
only way. That's the only way you can have. That's the only way you really can make a career.
Absolutely.
Honestly, as an independent artist, that's the only way. It's no other way to do it, because you're not. This is a little off topic, but you're not gonna. The labels, there's not enough labels for everybody to be signed to a major label.
Right.
There's not enough. The numbers don't allow for it. One of my mentors told me there's 8 million artists across the world that consider themselves professional artists. Less than 10,000 of them were signed to a label, a major, or a subsidiary of a major. So the number, that tells you right there. You're just not going to get a label deal. So you better figure it out. Are you okay with making $50,000 a year? Can you match it? Can you make it your job? You're a full-time artist. That's a win.
For sure.
Even Drake said on the Grammy, you don't need to sell millions of records to make it as an artist.
100%.
It's about perspective.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's really, that's the game I play is, let's build your audience. Let's figure out who you are. Let's super serve them. And that's a win.
Yeah,
that's a win.
Absolutely. When you have your fans going to bat for you, going on the internet, having your back, when you don't even have to be in that room.
And why don't you speak a little bit, because, our band is here, why don't you speak a little bit to that?
Which one?
As far as super fans and how that's affected you personally, what you've seen from that.
I mean, I just want to get back to the AI. Like, I'm just thinking as far as like, fans going to bat for AI. Like, how crazy would that look?
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Let's talk about that for a moment. I mean, there are markets, right, in Asia where you have virtual artists. I don't quite believe that they're AI artists, but they don't. It's not an actual human, that they're watching a hologram perform of.
Right.
Yeah. It's an amalgamation.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, how far are we? And maybe this is a prediction we could all make. How far are we from, in maybe 5 years? Not that there's not going to be there. We know they're going to be AI artists. But my question is, will they be these artists that become ubiquitous? Are we going to look at the charts in 5 years and have 2, let's say, non-human artists top those charts somewhere on the charts? What do you think?
I think it's possible.
I do think it's possible. It's also
scarier.
It's hard because
going to be a lot of
you
backlash.
have your major labels who also own all the DSPs.
Yeah.
So they're force feeding whether or not.
Well, they're in bed with the DSPs. They don't own them, but they're in bed with them.
Or they own a percentage, majority stake.
Yeah.
Well, the DSPs and the PROs.
Right. Exactly.
They're all they're talking.
For sure.
Hardcore.
They're in bed with each other. I mean, it is music business. And you don't want to be sitting there blindly saying like, oh, well, that can't be a thing. Like, payola doesn't exist. We did away with payola before. It's like, you're lying to yourself if you don't agree. It might not be cold hard cash, but let me tell you, I'm like,
look, it's still going on. It always will go. That's just the nature of the game. You know what I mean? Like,
prostitution's the oldest job.
Yeah, it's still there. But you can't. There's certain things you just can't get around, man. Being in our industry, it costs a lot of money. That's usually where people kind of fall off. At least with the independent artists that I work with, a lot of them are broke. They don't got no money.
Mm-hmm.
So if they want to play with the big boys, it's really only one way to play. You need money.
And if you think about this from strictly the and I'm not saying the independent, but the business perspective, and historically there are a lot of businesses. The business perspective being the big labels that in many ways encapsulate a lot of the other aspects of the industry. Different businesses within that one business. And, at this point, a decade and a half ago, maybe, the ubiquitous nature of 360 deals.
Right.
The idea was this one company is going to be able to own a piece of just about everything. Possible aspect.
Yeah.
So imagine if they could also literally own the talent. The talent is the IP. That's too dystopian.
That's the business model.
100%.
Yeah.
I think if you were to go to any head of any major label, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, that's where you're going to get your revenue stream from. If I own it and it's out of one pocket into the other. And that's what you're looking at Sony Music. If you're thinking Sony Music doesn't also coincide with Sony Pictures, or Universal Music doesn't coincide with Universal, NBC, anything like that, it's like, it's all the same company.
Vertical, yeah.
Yeah, it's different entities of the same umbrella company.
I'd say that they've grown into that.
Yeah.
Initially, they were unfortunately unnecessarily siloed prior to the internet, emails and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And now that they're going to do that. And also, you're talking about a situation of leverage that record companies have an interest in keeping alive, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm a player. I run into awesome players, performers, singers, rappers, lyricists all the time. And then I run into mediocre ones. And then I run into stars who fall sometimes in the mediocre category and sometimes in the awesome category.
Yeah.
And why are mediocre people on top? Because now the company has leverage. They can say, I made you, I can break you. And that's the same thing with AI. That's a bigger pot of leverage.
Yeah.
I made you, I can break you. If you go back to the 70s where the musician was king, and before that where the song was king, right? Because the song gets sung by a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
Now you're in a situation where these companies have less leverage because these things are powerful without them.
Yeah.
But when you let AI and an AI artist, which is that whole concept behind, the corporation being a person, and now the AI can be a person. And now you can leverage that and say, well, no, if you don't do what I say, then I'm taking your money. And if you do what I say, because of what you signed, I'm taking your money. And if you don't record how I told you, I'm taking your money.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it dangerous about letting AI get to those plateaus, because it gives a company an opportunity to reap more benefits than they would have otherwise.
I would say,
and the only savior would be a loving CEO and a loving CFO,
which
and a loving,
is very unlikely. But no, I mean, I would say I'm more scared of the CEO, CFO of a company than I am of AI.
Right.
AI is not
the threat.
They're not looking out to. AI is not making money. AI is not buying anything.
Right.
AI is not having to pay other people. AI is just computer input output, ones and zeros. That's it.
Yeah.
When you're adding the human element to, I need more money. I want more money. I want this. I want that.
Right.
That's where it gets crazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going back to it, before, when you had these old white dudes writing soulful songs back in the 40s, 50s that could be sung by anyone, and now you then had these companies take ownership of it. You have artists not getting paid on any of it, not getting any publishing on any of it.
Right.
You're stealing from the artists. And I think now is incredible because artists finally have the platforms to give these companies a middle finger and say, I can do it myself.
Right.
I could upload music to CD Baby, to DistroKid, to whatever, every other DSP. I could do the same thing. Now, artists don't have the same backing, resources, money that a label has.
Right.
So you can't expect to get on those top editorial playlists on Spotify.
Right.
Unless lightning in a bottle. You know what I mean? Your Lil Nas X, you just like it hits right place, right time, and then you have the majors coming after you and buying you out anyway.
Right.
Which
sad story.
that's what you want, though. I mean, you want that. Like,
Do you?
if you want to be it depends. If you want to be an artist where I want fame, and we were
Yeah,
talking about
yeah,
this before.
I
I
see
want
what
that fame, then take it. Like, and I'm not upset at any artist for selling out. Like, that's what you wanted. Like, it's not selling out. It's giving in. It's becoming part of it, and that's
But
fine.
understand when you do that, what you're actually doing
And what you're giving away.
and what you're giving away.
Yes,
So
yes.
if you want ownership of your music,
Mhm.
then
Absolutely.
Fight for it.
you're gonna have to fight for that because the record business. The reason why they can stay in business all the year because they own the master.
Mm-hmm.
That it's master. It's copyright. That's what the music business is made up of. Master. So when they own, that's why they can sign. That's why they can drop an artist because they own. You have to license it. You still got to pay the master fee.
Yeah.
Right.
So they can still do all these things that they can do from all the years back because they own all that music.
Without you.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
The reason why Rihanna's rich is not because she wrote a bunch of songs. It's because she leveraged her brand and now she's a billionaire because of Fenty.
Right.
Kanye West don't own any of his songs, but he's a billionaire because of Yeezys and what he's able to do. So you have to, at that point, you have to use the label as a partner.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
If you say, we're partnering together and we're going to use the resources, and when I'm ready to go, I'm going to take my... The best thing to do, if you can, is license it to the label. You license it for a period of time and say, okay, I'm going to take it back when I'm ready to go.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Or some people in their countries have a buyback clause.
Yep.
For 35 years, you get the license for 35 years.
After that.
35 years, comes back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So
you know,
not to interrupt you,
go
but to get to our next topic, and you had a perfect segue, by the way.
oh, did I? I didn't even know.
Fenty, that's what you do. But Fenty and Yeezys, the monetization of music is a lot more than just the music, right? And
It's a brand.
I know you know all about that. I know you all do.
Yeah.
So I want to talk a little bit about that. So, you know, I know you have a great case study we've talked about in the past when you sold CDs. We all know at this point that, you know, vinyl records have continued time and time again. I think it's 15 years now to break records going back to the beginning of the 90s at this point, or even before that. And really interesting ways that product is being put together and packaged and presented. Everything from, and we saw it with the McDonald's meals, right? That were rolled out a year or so ago. We've seen it time and time again with tons of artists. You mentioned a couple. Taylor Swift is the queen of that, rolling out 20 to 30 different variations of her releases.
And the super fans buying every one.
Her last album being this special vinyl option where if you buy all four, it comes together as a clock like Voltron. So tell me
Beyonce with the packaging.
Yeah, always. So if you don't mind, share with me maybe some of the more interesting things that you've seen, and also where do you think we're going from here? Because there's so much that's being, I mean, with vinyl, there is so many extra bells and whistles that are being added to this that it's almost, I don't know, at what point does it, and you would know a lot about this, at what point is it too much?
I don't think it's ever too much, man, because with the super fan, they will buy anything, man. I mean, if they love you, see, those products we're all mentioning, that's not for just the everyday person.
Right.
That's why it's key. It's not for the everyday person. It's people who are die-hard people. They die hard. You know, I've seen it, especially working with him. I've seen die-hard people that love you. And when they love you, they will literally throw money at you.
It doesn't matter how much.
So
but it's also about the creativity and the added value.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
And if you're taking the time, especially if it's a scarcity piece, that's like if you're making one of 50, there's only 50 of these,
But they're $500.
and they're $500. But right,
You have 50 people who are going to spend that money.
yeah, they're going to spend it, man, because they want people like to know. Hey, I only have one. These are only 50 of these, and I have one of them. That means something to people. So I think that
If the general population knows about it,
Right.
that's the caveat.
yeah,
Well, it's funny that we bring this up because one thing that I feel like kind of we forgot about is that guy about that one Wu-Tang record.
Dude.
Limited to one, Wu-Tang record.
That was the extreme version of what we're talking
Exactly.
about.
Yeah. And he paid, I don't even remember the amount of money.
It was a couple
Millions?
a couple of million.
Yeah.
Yeah, a couple million.
And it's like, that's a cool brag, I guess. But it's like, art is not supposed to be meant to be owned by one person.
Right.
It is a collective. It's all about where it comes from, how it makes you feel, how it changes the community around you.
Absolutely.
That's what I feel. And going back to AI, that's what AI doesn't have. AI doesn't have that same homegrown element to what art does. It can't be, you could put in prompts about Compton all you want, but I don't think it'll write a Kendrick record.
Right.
It takes an artist to do things like that. But going back to the branding side of it and going back to the scarcity side of it, I think doing things in the packaging nature is what you can do to grow super fans, because you have these people who are willing to be your financial investors without even knowing it.
Yeah.
And
that's the way it's supposed to be, man.
Yeah.
The way your fans are supposed to support your career. See, you get signed to a label because they're the bank. But really what they're doing is putting the money out so the fans can buy. That's how they get their money back.
And that is the ultimate freedom. Right?
Yeah.
Owning your audience.
Owning your audience.
I say that all the time.
So if the fans buy, they're the ones supposed to put you on the road.
For sure.
Because of what
they're buying the tickets.
Right.
Yeah. They're buying the shirts. They're buying the records. And
so I need to get signed. They don't understand what that really means. You just want the bank.
Yeah. You got a personal loan.
I would rather you do that. I would rather you go do that, and that way you don't have to necessarily play the politics of being signed to a label. But the supporters, your supporters, I call fan supporters. Your supporters, they put you on the road. They keep you on the road. They keep you going.
Yeah. I would say there's something that I've experienced. Sorry to interrupt. So as a sax player, I am not in everybody's purview.
Right.
But when I'm on stage, I make super fans quake. Yeah. Because you know how to connect to it, right? You either connecting to it up here, you're connecting to it here, or it's making you shake your hips like this, right?
Or all of it.
Or all of it.
And that's
right.
And there.
When I come up with a package, I'm a different guy. I like to cook. So I've done shows where I offer a barbecue rub and a barbecue sauce.
See?
And nobody does stuff like that.
Right. You speak my language, man, because it's all about an experience.
I was just going to say that.
We did a situation a few years back where we had a dinner, and they paid money to come hang out with Xavier Keyz. Because they wanted the element of who he was off the stage. And people paid money, didn't even show up. They paid the money, didn't show up, but they believe in him that much. That we have a young lady out of Albany, Georgia, that every time he comes to Georgia, she just comes to throw money at him. Here you literally, I just want to give you some. She literally just wants to give you some money. Here you go. I love him. I'm going to give you some money.
But it's about creating that one-on-one relationship with.
Exactly.
And that's where my mentor Ryan, he comes in, and with his platform with Superphone and having that direct connection to the audience and owning that relationship with the audience and being able to reach them at scale anytime versus depending on the algorithms of Instagram, Twitter, and now look at Threads. Threads is coming. Twitter is...
Yeah.
So now I have to migrate all of these people. If I don't own my fans, I got to migrate all these people over to Threads, have them keep up with me.
Label may or may not do that for you.
That's what I'm saying. But if you own your audience and you provide those type of experiences, where I come to Orlando, before, after my show, I have a meet and greet dinner with them, just to have that experience and give them shirts and merch, or just, package it together, what you was talking about, just different things like that, that people pay top dollar for experience. And when they do that, that's something that's memorable, that they'll always cherish.
Walt Disney they made a lot of money. Disney made a lot of money off selling experiences.
Experience.
You go there for an experience. People don't care what the money costs. You already know you're gonna go spend money. So you want your kids to have a good time. Sure. They want to go to Disney World.
They want that memory.
No, for family of four, it's going to cost you $1,000.
And guess what? You're going to come back again.
Yeah.
And again and again. When you
got
the
pricing
package,
it's like, well, I got to do it.
Yeah.
Different packages. Yep. It's just what, for instance, Ryan, my mentor, he does New Year's Eve parties overseas in the castle. And he offered ticket packages for his super fans. They come out, they enjoy a show by him, watch a firework party. Boom. Next year, he offers it, double the price because of the experience. People will pay top dollar just to be in the room, have that champagne experience, celebrate, take pictures, eat good food, because it's something that's enjoyable to them. So when you put on shows, different things as an artist, or whatever it is that you do, and you create those experiences for those people, they will keep coming back, and they will also be walking billboards for you. They'll wear your merch. They will go and speak for you.
And I can speak in his best. So his last album he put out called Red Wine, he had one of his fans at the time. The album was for $10 because he tells his albums direct. So one day she paid $60. I mean, she bought the album 6 times over. Why? Because she loves Xavier Keyz.
How long would it take you to make that off of streaming?
Right. So I mean, when you look at it from that perspective of building those super fans that care about you, it allows you to play the game on your terms. So if you want to play the game on your terms, and build super fans. If you're trying to compete with Taylor Swift, well, good luck, because you don't have the corporate dollar she's got.
For sure.
And arguably, moving to our next topic, arguably you touched on, if the experience is superb, if it's memorable, in many ways, you said billboard, in many ways it is the ultimate marketing, because you have someone that is an evangelist that is spreading the word, and today easier than ever with social media, they'll do that. So what I'm curious about, you mentioned Threads. What I'm curious about, we are inundated, it seems like. Before Threads, by the way, we had Blue Sky. Nobody's talking about that.
What is that?
The Twitter, original
Yeah.
owners of Twitter rolled that out. Got eclipsed by Mark Zuckerberg's Threads. We're inundated with all these different mediums to get the word out. You mentioned Superphone, owning your own audience. What have you seen recently? And this is a twofold question. What have you seen recently in the marketing space that really stuck out to you as something interesting? And in closing, if there were a piece of advice that you could give to someone watching now about approaching marketing, because everybody loves to do what they see somebody else does. And you mentioned if you try to be Taylor Swift, good luck. What would those two things be? So who wants to start?
What have I seen? I've seen campaigns ran by Bruno Mars and I can't remember the other guy's name, but they had a billboard, call 1-800, so and so to check out a piece of
Song.
the record. But it was ran through Superphone's campaign, and I was just like, man, that is genius. So they had billboards everywhere, just, call this number. And, over the time, I've seen a lot of the more corporate places and bigger celebrities grab hold to this concept, because they see that reaching your audience at any time, anywhere, at scale is the key to marketing versus social media and email. Text messaging has a 90% open rate within the first 3 minutes versus Twitter, all the other places. You got to scroll.
You don't even know if it's
going
going to be
turn
seen.
notifications on, hoping that your fans turn notifications.
You're at the mercy of the algorithm.
You're at the mercy of the algorithm, and God forbid, I don't know what happened, but Instagram and all of those other platforms, they shut down.
Instagram owns WhatsApp.
Yeah. So all of those platforms, they shut down, and then influencers, they couldn't create revenue like that, and they was freaking out. And that comes from not having the leverage and ownership of your artist. So the advice that I would give to any artist out there is, this piece of glass that we have is one of the most important real estates if you use it the correct way. And own your audience. Get your audience off of social media and into a actual real social handle, which is your phone, and have that relationship with them and be able to create those real direct relationships with them. And that's me. That's how I've experienced growth.
I was going to say the exact same thing. And this has been through the echo chamber of many friends, mentors, managers I've spoken to, is owning that audience, getting in starting with an email list, it's easy to get,
At least have that. If you don't want to take, at
if
least have
nothing else.
something.
Because even Discord, as close to a connection as you have with people on something like Discord, that server could shut down and it's gone. You know,
What's the last?
anything that you're relying on could shut down. And sure, MailChimp could shut down, but it's like you could at least export those.
Sure.
Right.
Gmail's probably not going anywhere, so you'll be fine with that. You know what I mean? Going to phones, like you could create text threads where people could talk to you and you have prompts that just go back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even need to text you, and you're sending push notifications to them being like, hey, I just dropped the song. Hey, I just dropped this new merch item. I want you to have it before it goes live anywhere else. Limited 300.
When was the last time people have changed their numbers?
Never.
Really?
Oh.
That's the powerful social media handle is your phone number.
Mhm.
It never changes.
I never want to.
And when will it drop off? If
I
you
want-
don't pay the bill?
Exactly.
That's about it.
Then you got bigger problems to worry.
Right.
So it's like
Yeah.
my area code is from South Florida where I'm from. I've had that number since I was
Mhm.
13.
Mm-hmm.
I don't ever plan on changing it.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I also have contacts in there that if I lost my phone, I couldn't get half those back. And if I reached out to those people, they probably wouldn't write back to me because like, who the hell is this? I don't know
Yeah.
that number.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, I mean, having that ownership of your audience is the most important thing. Having that, we call it D2C, direct to consumer.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Having that
Yep.
is the most important thing as an artist
Mm-hmm.
if you're looking for it to be a business.
And that, that is to me one of the most fascinating things that was said today. And you both touched on it because in some ways, what you shared was fundamental. And it really was a lesson from, at this point, what seems like decades ago, own your real estate, right? It started out with the website. Own your website.
Mm-hmm.
And then as long as you own your website, that's where people go. That real estate is where people go to interact with you in that same context. They communicate with you through email. And here we are 20 plus maybe years later, and there's so much technology and really smart companies that have found ways to separate all of these creators from their audiences.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
And making it so that you rely on that platform.
Indeed. It started with MySpace.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely.
If I were to say something interesting that I saw in the marketing piece, I love older stories. I remember when Napster and LimeWire was the way to
Yeah.
pirate music.
It was, the,
We're,
old
old,
right
we're
now.
old enough to know that. Young
Yeah.
kids don't know what that is.
So
it was the
yeah,
best. I love that.
and one of the things that 50 Cent did it, and Soulja Boy telling
Mhm.
Yeah.
you thought you were downloading someone else's
Yeah.
album.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whatever was popular, whether it was Brian McKnight or Smashing Pumpkins,
Doesn't matter.
and you
Mm.
downloaded their album and you were like, what is this?
Right.
But then if you listen long enough, you're like, this is okay.
It's interesting though, because also back then you burn that to a CD. That CD is not leaving your car for 6 months.
Right.
Oh,
You know what
no.
I mean? Like
no.
the way that we
That's
consume
with you.
music. Yeah. I mean, even on an iPod, you had 100 songs you're allowed to put on that thing. So it's like
Mhm.
those songs are what you're listening to. And now it's the library of music
Is
with a 30-second attention span.
Mm.
It's just connectivity. Like it's a disaster.
well, that means you're not that your audience is not going out to curate
Correct.
their musical companions right
Right.
now.
Right.
Now, if you make better music, they will.
Mm-hmm.
If you make something that walks with them through the day,
Game changer.
yes.
Yeah.
And you have to do that by researching your target audience, putting something specific in it, and putting something general in it to get back to the specific of that person that's in Seoul, Korea, and it means the same thing to them.
Yeah.
So I'm saying my advice that is related to the marketing ploy that I saw is get better at your craft.
Mhm.
Get better at what you produce. Get so good that it's undeniable.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And it don't have to be at everything. You ain't got to spread it thin. But if there's this one thing, boy, I sure do hit this note well. I sure do, analyze this music well. I sure do play keys well. I sure do
Mhm.
land a run at the end of the run well. whatever it is you do, get so good that it's undeniable, so that when you produce something, you will have the intentionality behind it for that piece of art to follow somebody, for them to be like, yo, I'm putting this in my pocket. It's important that I have this.
I mean, that's the same thing as going back to when bands' live shows were just so insane. The music could be mediocre, but if that live show is so insane that you're like talking about it days after to your friends, that's what record labels were buying into, especially in the 90s. Like, they're like, they lit everything on fire on stage. That's crazy. You know what I mean?
Because at that point, they can make the record,
Yeah.
as far as objectivity, because there's no objectivity in the music business other than making the record.
Right.
And once you make the record, everything is subjective at that point. So they can go and make the record. They can go and make the songs what they want to make the songs. But the people, how they touch the people, you can't duplicate that.
Right.
Just, if the people speak.
And I mean, I think that goes back to AI too.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, you're watching these performances, like, I guess you can computer generate something to look that way, but I don't think it's going to feel the same.
Indeed. Directly to Cameron's point about humans, first of all, I know we all know you could never replace that human experience that you have in that audience when you see that band or artist put on an unforgettable show. And second of all, your audience are humans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I will say, being on the stage, looking out at everyone watching you perform and seeing how you're individually touching everyone out there, whether it's 5, 50, 500, 50,000 people, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
That's like, there's nothing like that.
That's fuel.
Yeah. When I'm at a concert, like, I love to look around at the people around me and just see them in that moment, not giving a care about what's going on around them. They're lost for however long they are in that moment. And that's what it's about for me. And that's why, as dystopian as things may seem, that's what saved my life, 20, 30 years ago, listening to music for the first time, understanding music and wanting to be like, why is this making me feel the way I do? And it's that growth, it's that knowledge. And I mean, I think it's passion.
Yeah.
And again, you could separate the people who are in this for the wrong reasons versus the ones who are making only $50,000 a year doing it because that's their passion. It's like, I can make $50,000 a year working at Starbucks, or I could be on the road, I could sell my music, I could create, I could feed those juices I need to do, and it's the same income. And I mean, for me, I left Starbucks in 2018 to do this full time. I got paid more doing that, but this is what I want to do. This has been fueling my fire forever. So,
great points. Thank you.
Yeah.
Durell, I think you might have the final word.
As far as a marketing employee, what have I seen? They pretty much take it if they want out. So I'll skip that part of the question.
I'll say Master P with the with the shirts with the homeless. And they has walking billboards.
Oh, yeah.
That was something.
Master P was, he was
he's the best.
Master P was that dude, man. He's a mogul. He doesn't get talked about it, but he really is a mogul. But
marketing genius.
Yeah. Definitely a great marketing genius. But as far as advice, I mean, they guys all said it. Like, honestly, what I would tell artists, creators, what I tell them is build your audience, find the people that love you, and serve them. I mean, that's just the core of my message. Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to matter. Like, take the fame away. The people who really care, those are the ones who are going to stick with you and rely to have a career 20, 30, 40 years from now when you don't have a number one hit on the radio. You don't have it. That's why these artists can still tour. When they have that's why the John B's of the world still on the road 20 years. And he's still going. His schedule's packed.
Yeah.
And we all laughed at that because we all know who he is.
Yeah. And still, like, these artists are still working today because they had hits, but they also have audiences that would still want to go see them and super serve them. But as an independent artist who's coming out today, just find your audience. You're not trying to solve, because what they don't understand is you're a problem solver. Your songs solve problems for people. And that's why they come back to you. That's why they support you. That's why they spend money with you. Because we're in an industry where the product we're pushing is free. Which means they can get it for free. So why would they spend money with you? Because they have a relationship with you.
Yeah. Great.
And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. So
Great wrapping points. That said, I mean, I can't have someone bring up Master P and not chime in. So I'm sorry. But those neon spines on the CD, I'm just going to leave it there. I'm not going to, if you don't know what I'm talking about, look it up. The neon spines, who had neon spines on their CD? And the thread that I think I heard throughout this conversation was obviously make both memorable and superb product, whether that product be something you touch or something you experience or both. And also understand your audience and connect with your audience. That's a tried and true. That hasn't changed in
ever.
Never
will change.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry for running late, but to chime in on like packaging and everything like that, I would say there's a good amount of people who are buying vinyl records that don't have a record player.
Oh, yeah.
So why are they doing it? It's you're holding the tangible thing. You're reading the liner notes. You're experiencing the die cut packaging. You're seeing the visual side of the audio accompaniment. You know what I mean? It's the whole submersive experience. And you're selling it's the 360 vision of you as an artist. And that's why I think college kids are buying records and just putting it on their shelf.
Yeah, indeed. Great point. I don't know. I think we still should go around and have everybody just share where you can learn more about each of our panelists today. I'll start over here with Durell.
Y'all can just go to I'm on Instagram at Durell Peart. That's DurellPeart. Y'all probably have it at the bottom, right? And then my website, DurellPeart.com. And if you're interested and wanted to connect with me and see how we can work together, you can shoot me a text and go to just textdurell.com. Just your number there, and I'll respond back to you.
Mr. Keyz.
And you go that way.
Yeah, definitely. I am Keyz.com. That's with the Z. That's my website. And you can hit me direct at textxavierkeyz.com. Like you said, leave your number. What I'm saying, I'll definitely hit you back, and let's rock. Let's connect.
All right, call.
You can find me at carllewissax.com. That's carllewissax.com. Say it with me now. carllewissax.com. Make sure you spell sax right. You don't want that other website. On Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Carl Lewis Sax. Cash App, $ Carl Lewis Sax. TikTok, Carl Lewis 5. I couldn't get everything.
You tried though. You did pretty good.
I did try.
Pretty good. Smartpunk.com is the easiest for anything smart punk related, whether it be label or just trying to buy a new record. But also just never stop learning, never stop growing, and just keep honing your craft. I think that's the most important thing.
And on that note, I want to thank you all for being here with us, imparting so much valuable insight, perspective, knowledge, experience, wisdom. Thank you all, and see you next time on the Turntable.